Hello, friends, former colleagues, and of course, newly formed business connections. I'm Olivia Brown, CEO and co-founder of Heritage Consulting by B+R, and I'm here with our COO, Angela Reed. We are business advisors in the hospitality, healthcare, and government service industries. And as a newly launched business navigating the pandemic, we have had to pivot and are in a constant mode of learning, just like you. To continue building our business, we are delving into sectors that we had not prioritized for our early stages of business development, but we rose to the challenge, and so will you. This experience has taught us that we all just need to be a little bit more curious, more flexible, more adaptable in order to remain viable. But today I'm here to share that we are launching a new series, and I will turn it over to Angela to share more information. Take it away, Angela.
Thank you so much, Olivia. As we together built our business over the past few months, one thing became abundantly clear, and that is we have to be helpful to others as much as others have been helpful to us. We cannot be islands unto ourselves, especially not during these unprecedented and challenging times. So we at Heritage Consulting paused and asked ourselves, how can we add our voices to the sharing platform? How can we pay it forward? What was born is a 10-minute knowledge drop series entitled On the CQ. Now, CQ stands for Curiosity Quotient. And though it is a relatively new term, what it simply subscribes to is the idea that it is often so much more important to be passionate and curious than merely smart. So, we invite you to get curious with us. And we hope that our series will spark in you a new level of interest to learn and share new ideas and new innovations with us all. To kick off our series on the CQ, please allow me to introduce to you Elizabeth Pizzinato, one of our independent experts, who will be sharing with you best practices on how to communicate with your remote staff during these times when most of us, if not all, are working from home. Elizabeth, welcome. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Pizzinato, and I'm thrilled to be a part of Heritage Consulting by B&R. On the CQ today, we're going to be talking about communications. Now, while my background is brand strategy and brand communications, I've also worked with internal employee communications, crisis communications, and reputation management. And that's what I want to focus on today, is that internal communications piece. After all, many of us are not just working remotely, but managing remotely too, often for the first time. So how do you as a leader really communicate effectively when you're not close to your employees, when you're not face-to-face with them? I'm going to share a few simple tips and tricks that I think will help guide you as you think about how to communicate both now and in the future, because the reality is the workplace will continue to change and evolve, and your employees are an important and critical piece of that. So the first thing I want you to think about is let your brand purpose and your core values guide you. And by that I mean each company has a purpose, each company has a reason for being. Don't lose sight of that in this time of reaction, in this time of doing things differently. Always go back to core principles. Think about what core values you value, your senior leadership team values, and most of all, your employees value. That will really guide your actions and your words. So always go back to that language that is comforting and familiar to your employees. Let them know that you still stand for the same things that you always have, even in this time of change. The second thing is to communicate fast and communicate often. Now, by fast and often, I don't mean without thought or care. But the challenge in a time like this is we often think that if we don't have the information ourselves, then there's nothing really to talk about with our employees. I'm sure you've been in a situation, I know I have, where there's been upheaval and change in the company in the past. And whether it's laying off employees, terminating positions, changing the way that you do things, your employees are taking in information at rapid fire speed, and they're not taking it in from you alone. They're listening to water cooler chatter. They're thinking about what's happening with other industries, other companies that are in your competitive set. They're talking to other employees. So let your communications, you should be the source of information for your employees. Think about what you want to say, how you want to say it, and set up a regular cadence for how you do that. If you don't have the answer to something, be honest and transparent about that too. That's really, really important. You want to be able to tell your employees that you don't quite know what's going to happen next, but commit to them to get back to them at a certain period of time and then do so. Now, there's always going to be things that you can't and won't be able to communicate. But if you become a trusted source and create consistency in the way that you communicate, it will give your employees reassurance and they'll come to you first. And one other thing around that, make sure the communications is a two-way street. Allow them to ask you questions. Allow them to have a forum for finding out information. There may be things that will surprise you that they're worried about or concerned about, things that you can easily answer and allay their fears. That leads to the third thing that I think is really, really important at this time, and that is be transparent and create trust. Transparency and trust are something that you want to create as a leader at all times, right? We all as leaders want to be seen as a trusted source. But that goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where transparency is about being honest about what you don't know and also being honest about what you do know. Sometimes as leaders and as organizations, we think that protecting our employees from bad news is a good thing. It actually can really backfire because the employee is likely to find out from other sources. So make yourself the source. You as a leader, you as a leadership team, share both good news and bad news when and as you can. That creates the trust that your employees know that you have their back, that you're going to be transparent and honest about what's happening, even when the news isn't so good. And another point around that, if you have furloughed employees still, don't forget them in this equation. Being transparent, creating trust with them, including them in your communications plan is incredibly important. They are still part of your team after all. And when you bring them back, you want them to feel like they really haven't missed a beat, that they really have been part of everything that's been happening up until now. And finally, I would say the last thing is be forward thinking. Forward thinking from the point of view that all of the hacks and innovations and changes that you're making right now to your business may be things that you include in your business model as you go forward. So encourage your employees to think about the positive upside of all of the work that they're doing right now to be reactive and to do things differently. And communicate with them that they are incredibly important and a core part of that go forward plan. And ensure that they know that all of those things that they're doing to change the way that you do business are important too. So there you have it. Stick to your core values and brand purpose. Communicate fast and often. Be transparent and create trust, and be forward thinking. Take those communications principles in mind and think about them as you move forward into the new normal, whatever that may look like. Thank you, and hope you enjoyed this on the CQ.